Welcome to this explainer. We are jumping right into a 30-year municipal mystery today, focusing on a community called Valley International Country Club Estates in Brownsville, Texas. It is a story all about a binding municipal promise, utility bills, and the fundamental concept of basic fairness. And it starts with something every single homeowner instantly understands.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. Water meters really exist for one simple reason, and that's fairness. A water meter measures exactly how much water actually enters your home. If you use less water, you pay less. If you use more, you pay more. It's the exact same logic we use for gasoline at the pump, or your electricity or natural gas. It ensures you only pay for what you actually use.
But think about what happens when you don't have an individual meter. You are forced completely out of that logical pay-for-what-you-use model and pushed into a system where you essentially pay for what you don't. When you're connected to a giant shared bulk meter that's feeding hundreds of properties at once, you can't independently verify what your specific household used. You can't match a meter reading to your bill, you can't easily spot a hidden leak, and you absolutely cannot know for sure if you are only paying for your own consumption.
And according to the report we're looking at today, that is the exact reality in country club estates. Roughly 430 single-family homes out there do not have their own individual water meters. Instead, they are stuck sharing a bulk meter arrangement. The Public Utility Board simply takes the total bulk usage, divides it all up, and charges these unmetered residents a flat estimated rate. Which really leads us to a foundational question. Think about it. If one home uses barely any water, but the house next door is watering a massive lawn every single day, should both of those homes pay the exact same utility bill? Most of us would emphatically say, no way. It completely removes any incentive to conserve water. In fact, one resident noted in the report that she actually travels for 5 months out of the year, yet she still has to pay over $100 a month for water she literally isn't using. Now, what's really interesting about the data here is the direct financial comparison. A metered home in that very same subdivision pays around $35 to $55 a month based on actual measured usage. But the non-metered homes, they're getting hit with a flat rate of $75 to $95. That is a penalty of $40 to $60 extra every single month, simply because they don't have the hardware installed to prove their actual consumption. Well, when you take that monthly gap and multiply it across all 430 of those unmetered homes, the numbers get huge. The report estimates there's about $258,000 in excess costs hitting this subdivision every single year. That is $250,000 drained from one neighborhood annually, entirely because of a billing system based on bulk estimates rather than actual use. And remember, this hasn't just been a one-time glitch. This has been happening decade after decade. The cumulative financial impact is just staggering. Homeowners in this single neighborhood have carried an estimated $7.7 million in excess water charges since 1996. What makes this even wilder is that the utility provider absolutely can and does install these. The report actually features photos of individual water meters successfully installed at between 39 and 70 homes right there in the exact same neighborhood. Those homes receive proper bills with exact gallon readouts, which obviously prompts a massive question. If meters can be installed for a few dozen homes in the subdivision, why on earth not the rest? Right, so how did we get here? To understand the root of this inequity, we literally have to rewind all the way to 1995. That's the year Valley International Country Club Estates was annexed by the City of Brownsville. Annexation wasn't free, of course. It was a trade. Homeowners joined the city boundaries and instantly became city taxpayers. And in exchange, the city and the utility board agreed to provide municipal infrastructure and services. And part of that exchange wasn't just a handshake, it was put in writing in the 1995 service plan. Listen to this language carefully. Individual water meters shall be installed for each residential unit. Let that sink in. That wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't some long-term, maybe someday goal. Under Texas law, a service plan attached to an annexation ordinance is a binding municipal obligation. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because it's incredibly clear. In 1995, the promise is made. In 1996, the Public Utility Board actually begins installing the meters. But then, in 1997, the work just mysteriously stops. 3 whole decades pass, and the vast majority of the neighborhood never receives the meters that were promised to them. And you'd think someone would have noticed, right? Well, they did. Back in 2016, the Homeowners Association met with city officials to discuss some missing meters. Fast forward to 2026, and a utility board official actually writes a letter acknowledging the shortfall, blaming it on, quote, inherited infrastructure. But despite everyone seemingly being aware of the issue, the report notes there's still absolutely no clear plan or timeline to actually finish the job. So, what does this actually look like for the residents day to day? It's deeply frustrating. Normally, a standard utility bill gives you hard data. But the bills for these 430 unmetered homes, they are completely missing the basics. There is no unique water meter serial number, no specific beginning and ending readings, no total water usage. Homeowners just get slapped with a flat rate, with literally none of the transparency you'd expect from a modern city. So, the crucial point really comes down to the big picture economic impact over the last 30 years. Since that 1995 annexation, the report estimates these homeowners have paid a whopping $12.7 million in city property taxes. Place that right next to the $7.7 million in estimated excess water charges they've paid. Combine those, and you're looking at over $20 million tied directly to a promise that just remains totally unfulfilled. One community, one promise, 30 years. That really sums up the core grievance here. These folks aren't asking for special treatment. They are literally just asking for the basic municipal infrastructure that they were contractually promised 3 decades ago when they first agreed to become taxpayers. So as we wrap up this explainer, let's bring it all back to that universal theme we started with. Should homeowners pay only for the water they actually use? It's a simple matter of conservation, logic, and, at the end of the day, just basic fairness. And if you agree that the answer to that question is yes, then it leaves us with one final, unavoidable thought. Why hasn't every home in country club estates received the meter they were legally promised in 1995? 30 years later, that is a question of civic accountability that's still waiting for a real answer.